Fish on First has partnered with About the Fans to launch a merchandise collection. Rep the FOF logo and more Marlins-inspired apparel. Find it all at aboutthefans.com. Enter coupon code FOF10 at checkout to get 10% off your order. FOF10 for a 10% discount.
This is Griffin Conan.
This is Xavier Edwards.
This is Liam Hicks.
This is Dave Myers, and you're watching Fish on First live.
And welcome to this edition of FOF Live, presented by About the Fans. As always, you can check out the brand new FOF merchandise collection on aboutthefans.com and use the code FOF10 at checkout for 10% off your order. And make sure to tweet us your pictures of you in our glorious new merchandise. As always, I am your host, Daniel. We have Eli, Nate, Alex Carver, and we have two very special guests. We have two for the price of one. We have LMF, and we have Mr. Parker Haser. Fellas, how are you two feeling tonight to join us on this stream?
Feeling great. Happy to be here. New series. Let's go.
Let's freaking go.
Go. Hopefully by the end of this stream, we have Chase. We're gonna reel let's go. We'll get a loud one. Let's see how that happens by the end of the stream. But first, let's start off with some news with a bit of an infield switch for the Marlins, and that is with Xavier Edwards due to come back. Will be switching off from shortstop position to second base, and Otto Lopez will be looking at the primary shortstop as the season progresses. Eli, this is a move that a lot of us thought was going to happen a lot sooner than maybe when it was happening right now. Edwards really graded out as a maybe lower, way below average shortstop, especially with his arm strength and the way that he's been out there defensively. How do you like this new look Marlins infield, and do you see it actually becoming a success with Otto at short?
Yeah, there's a funny inflection point that we're at right now where Otto has played most of the year at second base, but enough at shortstop while X has been out that he's one of the better defenders statistically in baseball at both positions at the same time so far this year. He was a Gold Glove caliber second baseman last year, even though he didn't win the award. And so it seems kind of natural to think that maybe he was overqualified for that position and should move to shortstop in the offseason. That being said, I don't want to be too harsh on the team with this. They at least had an idea last offseason that if X could improve his arm strength, that he'd be more effective over there. They put him on a very specific throwing program that was a lot different and more intensive than anything he'd been through, and they wanted to see the results. In spring training, you sometimes can't see everything you want, so I even understood bringing it into the regular season a little bit just to get some clarity on that. But that's kind of where I draw the line. The fact that we made it 2 months into the regular season. If it was 2 weeks, I think it was apparent at that point that he was more or less the same guy that we had seen last year. The fact that it went on for quite this long and that they had him only playing shortstop, that also is something that gnaws at me a little bit. They were so insistent about him focusing all his energy on that position when he's somebody that does have a background at playing several other spots. So that, I think, lost them some time. It lost them some reps to see what Otto could do early in the year, what even Javier Sanoja could do at the same time. So it went on a little bit too long, but still 2/3 of the season to go to get a better feel for this. There's also the offensive element from it, where last year people were not too harsh on X because he was amazing offensively as both a hitter and a base runner. When this year comes out and he's more mediocre, to be honest, that certainly draws all the attention to the negative stuff as well. That's a big part of it. You would hope that maybe with less defensive responsibility that he's able to perform a lot better offensively. It doesn't always work that way. This kind of just hammers home the main flaw with him. Arm strength was an issue last year, and somehow, despite the throwing program and despite the focus on this, his average strength of his throws was the lowest among all qualified shortstops in baseball this year, and even lower than it was last year. So I don't totally understand that. That wasn't the only flaw in his defensive game, but that's something that stood out, and unfortunately, they weren't able to find a fix for it heading into this year.
I want to hear from Nate. Xavier Edwards is your guy. You have him there on the intro. Just what is your take now with Edwards moving to second base, and how do you think he's going to impact the Marlins defense going forward?
I think Eli hit most of it, to be honest. It really has always made more sense for him to play second. He's played a lot of second in the minors. He even played a lot of center, if you guys remember, in 2023 in the Marlins system. So it's made sense. Like Eli said, I agree with them. Giving it a shot. You showed everything offensively. If you're going to see what you can get out of a player defensively, you might as well try it, especially in the lost season that was last year. But when you have a guy like Otto Lopez, who I think was he should have been a top 3 finisher in Gold Glove, finalist last year, the move has made sense for so long. I think Eli also tweeted out that common sense prevails, and it really did there. It's made sense for a while. Just you have a better defender at second, and we know with Xavier, first step's not too good, range is not too good. Slide over to second. I mean, that pretty much cures all your issues. I believe he'll be a serviceable second baseman. Nowhere near Otto, of course, but it makes more sense to already have the chemistry up the middle. So it's no big deal. And I think he could honestly see some more success at the plate. Just have the whole pressure of being a starting shortstop with his struggles, already on the field, carry over to the plate. So I think he'll be all right. He'll adjust well. And I think this is definitely the better move long-term.
Yeah, to see how it goes there. I want to go, we'll go to Chase. Your last thoughts on this Xavier Edwards move. How do you like it? And maybe do you think it'll maybe improve him going forward? Also give maybe Xavier Edwards more of a stronger stay with the Marlins if it's him going to be at second base compared to shortstop?
There's been too many double plays not turned or not finished, or double play balls that have not been finished off with Xavier at short. Maybe and hopefully the switch fixes it, and I'm totally for it. I have X on 2 of my fantasy teams. I picked him rather early. I thought his bat would make up for his lack of defense or lack of arm, you guys had discussed. But now that we're moving into this position, I hope that the offense picks up just like you guys, and maybe it will. And again, we need these double plays, balls turned quicker, so Sandy could get out of some of these innings. So let's cheer on X and let's go. I'm happy. I like the move.
Yeah. Speaking of moves, Chase, so let's go ahead, Eli. If you have a graphic on all the moves that the Marlins made today, a ton of moves, a lot to get into. We can go in each one in detail one by one. You have Matt Mervis getting designated for assignment. You have Ronnie Simon getting designated for assignment, which really hasn't been maybe caused a little bit of a chaos on the internet following his errors the other day in San Diego. Bit of a bad look for the Marlins, maybe if they want to, DFAing him and see how everything goes there. You have Dan Myers returning from rehab. Jack Winkler and Hedberto Hernandez being selected from AAA. Carver. One of these names is not Troy Johnston. He's not here, even with Matt Mervis being designated for assignment. We love Troy Johnston, but tell us a little bit about maybe these new players coming up. You have Jack Winkler, infielder, Hedberto Hernandez, who we saw a bit in spring training. Just what are the Marlins getting here? How can they look in the MLB level, and maybe why these players or maybe some other ones?
Over Troy, I have no idea, so I'm not going to answer that. But Hernandez, I think, is good. He was stuck with it, like you mentioned, Daniel. He was stuck with it in spring training, like right till the end. He was competing with like Conine and those last few guys for the last spot. They gave it to Conine, of course, but he's here now, and he plays both corners, I think, pretty decently. Probably more of a fourth outfielder type, if you ask me, but his bat kind of showed up in spring training. It's been decent in AAA. Of course, we know that environment is a little bit friendly, but I mean, he's been decent in AAA with the bat, and he's played the corners fine. So I think this is deserved. He had a good spring training and made an impression, and now he gets a shot. So I like that one. I think that's a good one for the next outfielder up. If it's not going to be Troy, I guess this is a good one. Winkler, he plays a bunch of positions. He could play first base. He could play the infield, basically all over if he needs to. Probably could slot in the corners too. So kind of like super utility in the field. They can slot him in wherever they need. Probably going to be a bench player for the Marlins, but not a bad call up either. He was off to a pretty good start. We were just talking about a home run he hit the other day against Waldrop from the Braves. So he was off to a decent start with the bat. I think it's more field first than bat, but the bat was decent so far this year in AAA as well, just like Hernandez. So these guys deserve it. Paulie was doing nothing, unfortunately. Ronnie Simon, it was unfortunate for him. That's the fourth outfielder that goes back, likely for Heriberto here, probably slots into the same spot. And then Winkler gets the spot left over by Mervis. The only thing that I would say Winkler versus Troy is that Winkler plays more positions, but I think Troy has done a lot more than Winkler over the years to deserve this chance, but that didn't happen. Other than Troy, I think these are fine call-ups to make. Heriberto proved that he deserved it in spring training. I knew he would likely be one of the first outfielders called up, and then Winkler's kind of made his case. He wasn't in spring training, I don't think, but he's kind of made his case early in the year in AAA, and he plays more positions than Troy. So other than Troy, everybody else in AAA, I think these guys deserved it. I think Troy deserved it most, but we know what's going on there. Well, we think we know what's going on there. He's an old organization guy, and he's got a year left, and then he's a free agent. So that is what it is. We've talked about that a million times. But these guys are decent. I think they're both decent bench players, and they should serve the Marlins pretty well for depth as this series begins here.
Yeah. Parker, what do you think about all these moves? Maybe one like Matt Mervis maybe had a hot start to the beginning of the season and just tailed off recently. I believe he hasn't had an RBI in his last 20 so at bats. Just has not been maybe what most Marlins fans thought he was going to be. But again, it was just really low risk, low reward when he was DFA by the Cubs, trading Brujan. What do you think about these moves and really those two DFAs and Simon and Mervis?
I think it's pretty unfortunate with Mervis because, he did have that hot start. And, heck, he's still tied for second on the team with home runs with Agustin Ramirez. But, unfortunately, that's just had to happen. With Simon, you got to feel for him. Obviously, they caught him at probably one of his worst times in his professional career. And hopefully he doesn't go lower from that. Hopefully he bounces back and becomes somewhat useful with another team. I'm really hoping for that. Looking at somebody like Heriberto Hernandez, his stats, he does lead the AAA Jacksonville with home runs, but he struck out 57 times. Considering 57 strikeouts compared to 160 plate appearances, it's a lot of strikeouts right there. So, I don't really know what to expect with him. I don't know what to expect with anybody, for being completely honest. But I'm hoping he can hit somewhat well in his little cup of coffee here, and I'm sure we'll whenever X comes back, I'm hoping the best for him as well, and it'll be a fun series.
Chase, I know you had some things to say here. I'd love to get your opinions on all these roster moves that the Marlins have made.
Well, I'll start with Mervis, and I'll say he was playing like Thor without his hammer, right? The Hebrew hammer just wasn't smashing and bashing like he was in the first 2 weeks. You can't have that. I'm really upset that Troy wasn't called up. I believe he deserved it. Four GMs later, he's not getting the nod. Wasn't picked as a Rule 5. I just don't understand it, what they're waiting for. You know what? He's going to get his chance, and I speak frequently with him. He's keeping his head high, and I hope that he does get maybe a call-up in August if no injuries occur. And if an injury occurs, I hope he's the next man up. I have a big issue also with the amount of outfielders we have on this roster right now. We're carrying Stowers, Dane, VMJ, Hernandez, and Sanchi. That's 5 outfielders when normally you need 4, right? And you could put Wagaman if he's not at first, he's going to possibly need to be in the lineup in the outfield. So that means 5.5, 6 outfielders. That's insane to me. I don't know what they're doing or who's going to get the least or lack of playing time there. Sanchi, I think, is 2 home runs now. I hope he starts smashing and bashing because we need some power. We can't just rely right now on Agustin Ramirez. But I feel kind of bad, as we all do for Ronnie, as he's been sent down or sent away. Him crying is the last thing we're going to see. But as Tom Hanks said, and I tweeted this earlier, there's no crying in baseball. And he, unfortunately, that's how we'll remember him, with tears going down his eyes. And I wish him the best. I was wondering if you guys thought he would clear, maybe still end up on this team in the minors. But I guess that's up for debate. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I should make it clear. Both these guys in DFA limbo, which means that we don't know entirely what their fate is for the next couple of days. Could get claimed by another team. If either of them clears, the Marlins would be able to outright them to the minors and keep them in the minors the rest of the season, even without having them on the 40-man roster. I think it's a lot better chance that Simon gets claimed by somebody because of the versatility to play different positions. He's a really solid offensive player. That's why he forced his way to the big leagues in the first place. He got off to an amazing start in Jacksonville this year. Does a little bit of everything offensively. It's just defensively, that was a concern. I remember when he was brought up on the roster and I was kind of scratching my head. Why is he DHing 3 out of 4 games? And you're like, oh, and I guess you find out after the fact, maybe that's why. He has the versatility to play different spots, but he's just not particularly effective at any of those individual spots. Of course, Tuesday was a culmination of exactly some of the concerns that the team had when it came to that. That being said, he still has all of his minor league options left. If the team claims him, they get to hold on to all those options and try to make it work. So with him, that's the one. I think he'll get other opportunities in the big leagues for sure. The question is whether it comes directly via waiver claim or if he has to wait a little while. But he's younger than Mervis too by almost 2.5, 3 years, something like that. So with Mervis, they're in a weird spot because I think there's a good chance he clears waivers. If he does, they can outright him to the minors. But he only plays first base, and Troy is still down there. Troy's productive, and he's still down there. And Davis and De Los Santos, he should be back in Jacksonville soon, maybe a week and a half, because he's getting on his way back from his injury. Does it make sense to have all those guys on the roster at the same time in Jacksonville? That's kind of redundant, and especially if you don't really believe in one of them. So I'll be curious to see what happens there if Mervis does clear waivers. There is a chance, an outside chance that both of them stay in the organization even beyond this and get a chance to redeem themselves. Got to keep reminding people how ridiculously long this season is. You're only 1/3 of the way through the season. As lost as some guys look in certain moments, they can redeem themselves. They can fix things. They can come back later in the year. So I would hope that somehow Simon clears waivers because I still have hope for him offensively. And that I'm glad that the support that he received in the midst of an awful game on Tuesday, the outpouring of support that he got was really encouraging. So I'd still like to have both of them around the organization if no other team steps in.
I want to ask Nate about Matt Mervis. Is this the guy you think is going to get cleared waivers? And if so, is there anything really he can improve on? Because this is a guy that's probably been in the minors for a majority of his career with the Cubs. The Cubs really held on to him for a good amount of time. I believe it was 2022, 2023, where he just had 30, 40 home runs in the minors. Is this maybe what you're going to get with Matt Mervis, what we see now in the majors? Or do you think there's maybe any room for him to improve on?
I believe he will go unclaimed. I think he'll be back in Jacksonville in a couple of days now. I'm not really expecting any team to take a chance on him at this point. Like you said, throughout his career, he's tried to be like a quadruple A player. Really did play at AAA, gets the bids, slumps pretty hard. And what we've seen in the past month has kind of been what he's done in the past of the bids. That first month was great, and I think I talked about it. Right in the span of that first month, that he is the 3 true outcome guy the Marlins haven't had in a while. And about a week later, he turned into a 1 outcome guy, and it was pretty much all strikeouts. And he really, I think Isaac tweeted out, hasn't even reported an RBI since that last homer against the Reds on, I believe, April 23rd. So that's over a month now. And he kind of just looks lost. He's still hitting the ball a little bit hard, running into some bad luck. That is baseball. But really not, that good in the field. And when you're a 3 true outcome player and you're not walking or hitting the ball out of the park, you're pretty much useless, unfortunately. So I think he will end up in Jacksonville, like I said. At this point, it's the same issues he had his entire career. Put the ball in play more consistently, trying to walk more and striking out less. Might come at the cost of pitching his approach a little bit. I even said this when I talked about this a month ago. But if maybe sacrifice a couple home runs and put a few balls in the gap and just maybe reach on singles for a change, and he abandoned that and he pretty much just went for the 3 true outcome and kept striking out. So obviously a lot to work on. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes his way back to this team. Injuries happen, like Eli said, it's a long season. So I expect him to be in Jacksonville, and I will not be surprised if we see him in a couple months.
Mm-hmm. So I think with that is a perfect time to get into our press box report. Coming to us live from Lone Depot Park, as always, Mr. Kevin Barat to talk to us about what he's seeing here at the Marlins prepare their 3-game set against the San Francisco Giants. It should be an interesting series with some former Cy Young award winners and some very interesting hitters coming from the Giants. Kevin, first off, a bunch of roster moves. I want to get your opinion on those and maybe what you've seen with Clayton McCullough and also Bruce, because I saw Bruce and Peter were there as well.
Yeah, haven't talked to Bruce or Peter, but yes, they are here. Roster moves. Yeah, I mean, a lot of them, to be honest with you. I think the Simon one was more or less the most surprising of the bunch, just given, as you guys have noted, he had options and he does provide a lot of versatility. He could play every spot in the infield, maybe except first base and obviously catcher, and gives you the versatility at every outfield spot. But as Carver noted previously, Winkler really made a good case for himself, just the way he had been performing offensively. Could help you out a little bit more with the bat and give you a little more pop. And honestly, he'll probably be up here just for the weekend because then Xavier Edwards is coming back. So we'll see what they do there, what that roster move entails. But yeah, sucks for Ronnie. He was a good guy, one of the nicest guys we've had come across this team. And yeah, with Mervis, it's tough. Clayton noted it that it's a guy who just really never got it going, unfortunately, and never got it going after the start that he had gotten off. He got off to an awesome start. Finally looked like maybe he was going to break through with this team. Unfortunately, it's not the case. And they bring up Heriberto Hernandez, which I found to be an interesting roster move there. It's not 1-for-1, but it's just, I found that interesting. LMF noted it. A lot of outfielders on this team. So, but he's in the 2-hole tonight. So I'm surprised to even see that was the case. But it's a guy who strikes out a lot. So we'll see how that looks at the major league level. 35% strikeout at AAA Jacksonville, but has some nice pop. Could give you some powers. Good hits in the gaps, maybe extend a couple doubles, but outside of that, you're not getting much there. With Winkler, I think Carver noted this. It's probably a guy who will just be on your bench. You'll use him every once in a while, and then we'll get some time. So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, there's an angle to this that I wanted to touch on with you, Kevin, in that one of the main reasons why they were willing to move on from Mervis is because Liam Hicks has been great, and Liam Hicks can play some first base. So do we have any clarification in terms of how often he's going to do that? With Eric Wagman is presumably going to be the main guy over there, but they've had this 3-catcher setup now for several weeks now. They weren't going to stick with it all year long if those guys were only catchers, but now if Hicks has a little bit of versatility, then all of a sudden it makes sense for a longer period.
Yeah. Clayton said that Liam Hicks would be catching in the next, playing first base in the next couple of days. So that could be tomorrow or Saturday, obviously, or at some point this homestand. But he did say in the next few days he's been getting work out there. I think Jack McMullen had posted that he was getting work with pre-game today, and he's an option, I guess. Probably not the one you want there defensively, but we'll see how it goes. As you guys know, he has experience, and at the end of the day, he's hitting well. He's having a good season for the most part, and it's impressive what they've been able to do with Rule 5 picks, and we're talking about that major and minor league. Dane Myers coming back today, hitting the 5 spot in a lot of minor league Rule 5 pick. Liam Hicks, a major league guy. Jack Winkler, minor league Rule 5 pick. As much as he may not play or may not be up here, I mean, he minor league guy who they took in the Rule 5 draft. So it just shows that they've been hitting on these guys, and regardless of what regime it is. So, we'll see. Liam Hicks take some reps at first, and for the most part, it'll be Wagman. I mean, I don't think you'll see Wagman playing the outfield too much more. So you'll be seeing that combination there for a good amount of time. And that's really about it there. It looks like it'll just be those 2 guys.
Yeah. Isn't this beautiful? 3 Rule 5 guys all on the active roster at the same time.
That's crazy.
And 2 of them are among the most valuable players on the team so far this season.
Mm-hmm. Diamond in the rough guys that they've been able to find throughout the years. So just to show that you could get, that type of stuff does work. Cheap guys you find in the draft, and they're showing it with Dane, with Liam Hicks, and we'll see what happens with Winkler.
Kevin, you guys spoke to Clayton, just his thoughts on maybe the roster moves, the optioning, Xavier Edwards coming back and moving positions, just overall what you got from Clayton pregame.
Yeah, he noted that when he made those comments that he had not told X that he was going back to second base, he said that X took the news well. and that it's going to take him some time to adjust, obviously, as anyone would when you're moving a position mid-season. But he's very excited about what Otto Lopez can bring to that position and what he has already shown. I think we're talking about. I think he's already at 2 DRS at shortstop, so it's impressive what he's been able to do. And it sucks for him because we're talking about this. I don't know if it's games played at the position that will qualify for a Gold Glove, but I mean, his case for a Gold Glove at second base is obviously over, and that hopefully goes to shortstop. Plays enough games there. So aside from that, I mean, you're improving defensively regardless with that move of putting X at second, Otto at short. And one thing I'm going to be interested in seeing is how they'll go about that leadoff spot. I know they made it very clear that Edwards will go back to the leadoff spot, but I don't know how much to buy that because just the other day they're saying he's going to be a shortstop. So maybe, I mean, Jesus Sanchez and Augustin Ramirez have been awesome in that leadoff spot. I wish they could continue that. So we'll see what happens on Monday when he comes back potentially. He's playing tonight, leading off, playing second base for the Jumbo Shrimp. So he'll get in today and tomorrow, and probably back in the afternoon after that game. And yeah, but I think it was a move that needed to be made. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out. The numbers got worse. The arm strength was worse. So yeah, and I think Otto is an awesome fit there at shortstop, and they really like Otto Lopez. They really like him. They love Wagner. So yeah, I think it's a good change overall.
Yeah, see how everything goes there. Kevin, I wanted to ask you. You spoke to Victor, to Mesa Jr. Making his first, actually appearance at Lone Depot here in Miami. What have he said about the opportunity? Because I feel like it's in Miami, it's a guy you really have to mention. It's gonna have maybe somewhat of a fan base here.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, it's such a Latin population, heavy population, Cuban specifically, that is here at Lone Depot Park in Miami. Obviously, having someone like BMJ is going to attract some fans regardless of quality of player. With Yuli Gurriel and as washed as he was by the time he made it to Miami, a lot of people coming out to watch him. Yeah, exactly. So he's rocking number 10. Yuli wore that number. Obviously, his favorite athlete, Lionel Messi, was wearing that number. And he says that it's a day that he's not going to forget the moment he got that call. Actually, it was taken out mid-game. I don't think any of us even realized that, but taken out mid-game and in Jacksonville and told that, hey, you're going to San Diego. Got there the next day and came into a pretty big situation. He said he felt a little anxious, and he said, he just wanted to get out there, get his at-bat in. And maybe that was the big reason he said he struck out, just felt a little anxious, aggressive. But worked some awesome at bats in that final game on Wednesday against the Padres. Got his first career hit and RBI in the middle game. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they use him. I'm not to say that I'm surprised that he's not in there, because obviously the reverse splits are there and they've been there for a while, and they're very evident. He hits left-handed pitching better than right-handed pitching as a lefty hitter. So my guess is that he'll get into the game tomorrow, maybe Wednesday in the series finale, but he's going to get an opportunity here regardless. And I mean, the fact I was a little scared that they were going to send him down and he just wasn't able to make it to Miami. But I'll enough noted, a lot of outfielders. I'm going to be interested to see how they use him. Thankfully they have the DH, so you don't have to worry about maybe putting Mervis in there. That gives you a little bit more options, because Mervis, as is probably the better DH option when he was on the team, just given he's not a very good first baseman defensively, so it made sense having him there as the DH. So I'm glad that there's now a little bit more options. You can put Sanchi there at DH.
Yeah.
Who knows, Stowers at DH. But defensively, this is going to be a lot better outfield. So I think it'll be pretty good. We got to see like BMJ, Stowers, and Dane in the same outfield at some point. Hopefully, that'll be a good outfield, like defensive outfield.
Mm-hmm. Going up against the Giants, Kevin, how do you think they're going to fare against maybe that pitching staff? I know Robbie Ray's having a crazy year. Kyle Harrison has been somewhat decent. Just how do you feel like they're going to go ahead, this Marlins batters going up against those pitchers, maybe even vice versa too, because they have a pretty nice lineup as well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. This series is going to be an interesting one because the Giants are having a good year for the most part. They're still in that NL West. So, yeah, I mean, Robbie Ray, I didn't even know he was having that good of a year, to be frank. So he's been like one of the more, I guess, underrated guys I'm looking forward to seeing how Edward Cabrera looks after such a great start in that middle game of the 3 game set. If he could show consistency, obviously awesome start against the Angels. Hopefully he can repeat that against what is a really good opponent in the Giants. And Ryan Weathers hopefully goes a little longer than he did in his last start. I know it was been a couple of weird starts. It was a good start against the Padres. Ended up just not going their way. I think that was the game they were up 6-0 or 3-0, and they somehow still blew it. So we'll see how it goes. And Cal, I mean, seems like he wasn't very pleased the last time out when they took him out after, 46 pitches, three and a third. So it seems like they hashed it out, everything, what may have happened there. And who knows? I mean, we could see Jansen Junk again tonight. Seems like that was more or less the plan the first time around, having Kyle go a couple innings and go to the Junk, who finished out the game.
Should be a very interesting series, as always. You can go
Otto Lopez revenge series, former Giant Otto Lopez. So.
Yeah, he was there for
oh my God.
months, less than 2 months. Yeah, his original organization was the Blue Jays. When they played the Blue Jays, that's more of a revenge series, right?
Yeah. Still, you gotta have some sort of chip on your shoulder when you get DFA'd like that, and look at the career you spanned out.
Well,
yeah.
See how the Marlins pan out, and you can check that out on Kevin's Twitter. You can always check out Kevin Baha, everything he does, him covering today's game. Kevin, did you send in a prediction video for later today?
Yeah, Isaac and I did one, so yeah.
Oh, perfect. All right. Always, thank you, Kevin. Everyone go follow him. Check out his stuff on Twitter, as Eli will get and put up the lineups for today. But before that, I want to go. Oh, Carver, are you there?
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to ask you about the outfield position. You know, Chase mentioned it. Kevin mentioned it. 5 guys, 5.5, 6, if you want to include some other players like Wagaman. Just what do you think about this, the way maybe the Marlins are going at it? 3 catchers, 5 outfielders, just almost a hodgepodge of having all these positions there. And maybe guys who maybe I don't want to say shouldn't be on the active roster, but maybe some compared to others, and just having that guy up there to take over the space, to be a 5th guy in the outfield compared to maybe someone in the infield or something like that.
Yeah, I think they're just mixing and matching, honestly, with different kinds of players, honestly. Some of them are glove first. Some of them have shown it with the bat, like Stowers and a couple of other guys. Sanoha, we know what to expect from him. He's going to get a base hit and play decent defense. So I think they're just trying to mix and match with the depth that they have as best as they can without going to the top prospects most of the way just yet. Of course, they called him Augustin. That was one of the top prospects. But, I think they're just mixing and matching with depth as best as possible without having to go to the big prospects just yet. A lot of those guys are hurt. Some of those guys, they don't want to start clocks. Some of those guys aren't ready yet. So this is the transitional year. This is a transitional roster. We knew that from the start, and this is what you kind of get with a transitional team is role players. So they're going to mix and match and go with the guy that's hot or go with the guy that has the platoon advantage or whatever it may be. This is exactly what to expect from a transitional team. So I'm not surprised. I think we're going to see a lot more roster moves as the season goes along. We're going to see more role players come up as the season goes along. Maybe we'll see some of the top prospects. Hopefully we will when they get ready, when they get healthy. But right now, this is who this team is. It's a team in transition, and it's a team that needs to mix and match as best as possible.
Yeah, who would have thought going into June, we've had the bench of Liam Hicks, Jack Winkler, Gilberto Hernandez, and Victor Mesa Jr. at the beginning of this season. That is something there to witness. Parker, again, maybe your thoughts on that outfielder position and maybe what Kevin mentioned in terms, again, with the outfield, the multiple positions, and also maybe going into this Giant series as we get this lineups ready.
Well, I also want to mention that, last year we did set the record for most players played for a single team. We're going to be at 42 after all these moves. As long as Winkler does make an appearance, he should. But it's a very interesting roster composition. I wouldn't say it's my favorite way of doing things, but it's kind of what we're at this point. We knew that this team wasn't going to be great. We were just hoping that it was going to be exciting, and for the most part, we've gotten those moments. The first series against the Pirates, that was a very fun one. This past series against the Padres, and that comeback against the the Athletics with Mason Miller on the mound, where Stowers hit that grand slam. I mean, it's not exactly, perfect roster composition. I mean, we have 3 catchers on the 26 man right now, with Fortes, Hicks, and Ramirez. And even though 2 of those have been really, really great, at least as hitters, we kind of just need to weather the storm a bit. Understand that this is where we're at. We'll be fine with these 5 outfielders for now. I mean, it's not like X will be back soon. We have to realize that, and it's going to be it's just going to be an interesting process going forward. And hopefully we see maybe, I mean, I doubt it, but maybe somebody like Heriberto Hernandez can actually be a piece going forward with this team. Maybe he can be a 4th bench outfielder, or not 4th bench. Maybe he'll be a 4th outfielder going forward for the future of this team. When we win the World Series in 2 years.
Yeah, what I'll say is that we're
PJ.
rolling our eyes about the possibility of Griffin Conine turning into anything largely because of his strikeout issues in the upper minors. And if that's the main knock on a guy, Conine showed in a somewhat limited sample that you can still improve as a player and make adjustments in a way that was kind of unexpected. So Hernandez is not the same defender as Conine is. The ceiling is lower, even if things work out. That being said, I'm skeptical. I just don't there's now a little bit of history there around the league, even so there are more examples of guys like this that actually turn into more than you would expect at the big league level.
See how interesting it is there. Eli, do we have the lineups for tonight to go ahead and talk a little bit about this upcoming series between the Marlins and the San Francisco Giants? As Kevin mentioned, the Giants are having somewhat of they're having a better season than they had the last couple years. Again, a very tough division, maybe minus the Rockies, but with the Giants, you have guys like Robbie Ray coming back from Tommy John surgery not too long ago, having a fantastic Cy Young caliber season. Just a very interesting lineup. But let's go ahead and talk about the Marlins lineup first. You have Agustin Ramirez leading off. I believe just for 3rd, 4th game. Agustin Ramirez leading off. I want to get Nate's thoughts on this lineup because this is very interesting all over Twitter. Edberto Hernandez's debut is hitting 2nd. You have Kyle Stowers at 7, Sanoho at 8. Maybe some people were saying, why not flip Sanoho and Hernandez, especially with Hernandez making his debut? Just your thoughts on this very interesting construction of the lineup with Hernandez, and you have Stowers down there. You have Sanoho. Very interesting lineup that McCullough came out with.
Yeah, when I saw the tweet, I thought Hernandez and Stowers might have been like a little, typo there or something was wrong. I'm definitely surprised to see Hernandez hitting 2nd in his first game. But like this, I mean, we've seen it in the past. I was very confused when Kyle Stowers was hitting 2nd to lead off the season, and look at him now. So maybe Clayton knows something that we don't. That's why he's managing the team, and I'm not. But outside from that, I do love Augustin leading off. He had an amazing game in San Diego, the last one. 4 hits, homer, came up clutch all day long. He was amazing. I think his issue was, and we all know how hard he hits the ball, but I think he had trouble elevating the ball at least earlier in that series, and I guess in the past week or so, elevated a lot. Even poached some out to the outfield, but that got the job done. He was the pivotal in that win on that was Wednesday. Eric Weideman still hitting 3rd. I guess, like I said, Clayton just loves him there, so I'm not going to get too critical of that. But you have Norby and Stowers at the bottom now. They kind of fell off a little bit in those last 2 or 3 games in San Diego, but I think they'll be all right. Bumps in the road happens. The roller coaster this MLB season is. But overall, I'm a fan of it. Having those 2 guys that low gives you some depth in the order. I like the Dane, Connor, and Kyle. That's going to be fun to watch. And even Javi at the bottom is going to be cool. My only gripe, I wish Liam Hitch got more at-bats, man. We haven't seen as much of him as we should. Guy's one of the best hitters on this team, and I wish we saw more of him. I don't really know why we're seeing so much Fortes, especially after he cooled down offensively earlier in the season, and he came off the IL. It's kind of been the same hitter that we've come to know over the past 4 years or so. So, like I said, only gripe is seeing more Liam Hitch, but outside of that, I think it's all right.
Carver, you have any thoughts on this lineup? Again, Dane Myers coming back, Aldo Lopez. Now we'll continue to play shortstop and doing so this game, and then you have Hernandez again on left field. Every game, I believe, this season has been a completely different lineup. Just your thoughts on tonight's lineup against the Giants, and maybe something maybe you might change even.
Yeah, again, I'm not the manager either, but I think you could honestly flip 2 through 8, and it would be a better lineup. That's my opinion. With Hernandez going down to 8, Sanoa flipping up to 2, and so on and so forth with the power hitters in the middle of the lineup. Like a lineup traditionally is. This is very unorthodox. I don't understand this lineup at all. I guess Hernandez hitting second could be that maybe he thinks that the reports aren't out on him and he could get some easy pitches to hit in the second spot. Maybe that's a guess. I don't know. I guess we'd have to ask him, but that's my guess. But yeah, honestly, I think you can flip 2 through 8, and it would be a better lineup with Augustin. I like in the leadoff spot. He had a great night there. One of few Marlins to ever get 4 hits out of the leadoff spot, and his debut in that spot. Maybe even the only one. So that's pretty cool. And Fortes offers nothing with the bat. So I think you could honestly flip 2 through 8, and this would be a better lineup. But that's my opinion, and that's why I talk on a microphone. I don't manage a baseball team.
Yeah, I do have. It seems like an understanding about why they're doing it. We can disagree about how good Hernandez is and if it's going to be effective. They're putting him near the top just so he gets as many plate appearances as possible against the starter tonight against Kyle Harrison, who's a lefty. And then I'm sure he's going to be out of the game if ever there's a right-handed pitcher that comes in. So they want him to face Harrison 3 times, and to do that, to ensure that they move him as close to the top of the lineup as possible. And the reason is our buddy Reese Stark on Twitter pulled up some AAA stats about how Hernandez has been very good against left-handed 4-seamers this year in AAA. The thing is, like, his overall splits against left-handed pitching are not that good. He's actually not any better against lefties than righties this year overall, but specifically against 4-seam fastballs, Kyle Harrison is a guy that relies very heavily on his 4-seamer. They think that perhaps his bat path is really well aligned with both Harrison's fastball and with his specific release point. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I disagree with it, but the reason why he's this high is because they want him to face Harrison as many times as possible. And they think that particular matchup is a good matchup, it seems. So this hasn't been said, but I think Reese's theory on this is pretty sound, that they're really diving deep on a particular matchup that they like. For a guy that they don't even know if he's going to be on this roster for all that long. But while he is here, they want to use him in this particular matchup that they think lines up well with him.
Chase, we got to hear from you, Mr. LMF. Stowers at 7, Augustine leading off. In your world, would you keep Augustine Ramirez as your leadoff hitter for the rest of the season? It's the way that he's been performing so far in his rookie year. Oh, you're muted.
He was doing great at leadoff this past week. That's great and all, but no, I want him getting those hits when someone's already on base for a chance at an RBI. Now, will that happen the second time through, the third time through? Possibly. But to lead off the game, I'd like to set the tone with runs, right? And if he's getting a single, let's say, or a double, there's no guarantee that Hernandez is going to bring him in or anyone after him. As I like Carver's term, unorthodox, it seems everything this team's doing is unorthodox this season so far. And it's not working out because we're 10 games under 500. We've had some fun wins, but let's talk what it is. We're 10 games under 500. It's not helping them win other games. You already are seeing the issue with the 5 outfielders. Sanchi, who hit a home run on Wednesday, is not in the lineup today. That's his reward for doing well, is you get benched. And I understand maybe is it a lefty pitcher we're facing today? Not sure, but maybe that's why. But he's done okay versus lefties so far this season. And I don't stick up for Sanchi all the time, but he deserves to be playing he's the highest paid Marlin position player. He should be in every game unless he's injured. But again, I'm not the manager. I'm just a paying fan who spends a shitload of money on Marlins stuff. So I have to be okay with it. And you know what? Dane's back. Dane, I think, is batting 337, if I remember that number correctly, close to 340. It's nice to see him in the middle of the lineup. I think that he could potentially be our all-star if he stays healthy this next month. Stowers has taken a step backwards. Hope he picks it back up, but Dane's the guy who's really getting it done in almost every game he's in. So I like him at center. I also like Stowers in left for some reason over right, but maybe I'm wrong there too. that's my thoughts there. Thank you.
Could get into all-star topic. Still a little early at that, but well, we'll see how that goes for the Marlins. Maybe even the all-star for the Marlins. Maybe not even this lineup. But to go on this, I want to finish off with you, Park, before we go off and talk a little bit about the Giants. Not interesting of a year they're having. Again, your thoughts here. Maybe Javier Sanoa. A lot of people in our chat are talking about, hey, maybe this is a guy you could have moved up a little bit above on the lineup, maybe second, third, or somewhere around there, maybe even a leadoff spot. But what do you give this lineup? And maybe do you like the construction, how it is, especially against a lefty? No Sanchi, of course. But is there something you would have done differently?
There are a few things. I mean, I've just been looking throughout the stream, like on my stats, just looking through like what I would have preferred. So I think Agustin Ramirez against the lefty at DH, at the leadoff is fine. Not exactly what I would have preferred to do. I think Sanoha might have been a better table setter in the beginning, just to have him at number 1 and then put a Ramirez at 2. I think moving Stowers up to 3 would have been a good role. And like, even when you say like, oh, he's a lefty hitting against a lefty pitcher, looking at his stats, he hasn't hit a single home run against a lefty at all this year, but he has a higher OPS against lefties than he does against righties. And obviously smaller sample size, but I think that's something that's that should have been something that's still considered. Dane Myers moving up to 4. Otto Lopez, and basically switching Otto Lopez and Dane Myers. I think that would have been something I would have preferred. Maybe moving Wagaman to 6 and then keeping Norby maybe at 7. I think that would have been a better lineup in my opinion. And then having Hernandez and Fortes at the 8 and 9 hole. I think that would have been something better for the Marlins in terms of lineup. I think that would have been, then again, they've also been looking at stats, they've also been a better offensive team than the Giants have been this whole entire year, which that's shocking. Even with the Giants being 6 games over 500, they've been a pitching heavy team looking at it. But yeah, I think if you would have constructed that lineup to have Ramirez at 1, you put, I guess Stowers at 2, I think I had Myers at 3, or you put him at 4 and switch Otto Lopez. Yeah, I think that would have been a much better lineup.
Yeah, a lot of different maybe roster construction people would have made, but this is the one that's going for this today against the Giants. Again, maybe might have been Klain could have been upstairs in front office again, guiding him on who to put in what position and maybe having those guys face certain opponents. But let's go ahead and look at this Giants lineup. Kind of like what you mentioned, Parker. It's a very pitching friendly team with guys like Robbie Ray, Kyle Harrison, and guys like that. So with all the blue there, it makes you think, oh wow, they really 6 games over 500. But Eli, I want you to talk to us about this Giants team. You're really my go-to when it comes to the opposing team. We don't have someone to talk about for who covers that team. But we have guys like Matt Chapman, you have Wilmer Flores, who he has been like in every other team the Marlins face off against every season. Jung Ho Lee, who's coming off a very injured season last year and has been performing moderately well. And you have guys like Patrick Bailey, who's just a very good defensive catcher, but offensively maybe leaves a lot to be desired.
It reminds me a little bit of what the Padres looked like entering that series when I picked the Marlins to win that series, because the Padres had been good for most of the year and then slumped recently, and the Giants are kind of the same way. They're 7-11 in their last 18 games coming into this after getting off to a great start. They may have briefly held the best record in the majors at some point, and a lot of that was because of their offense. Their offense did look good early on, with the exception of Willy Adames being the big one. He's received one of the biggest contracts, maybe the biggest contract in franchise history, to come over this past offseason, and he's been slow out of the gate on both sides of the ball to this point. So that has been the fact that he's 6th in this lineup. That was not the plan entering the year. He was supposed to be near the top. But overall, it's interesting where a lot of these guys can do damage. Wilmer Flores has one of the higher RBI totals in the entire league. It's just that as an overall player, you see he's going to come back down to earth a little bit. He's just a good situational hitter, but just not a fearsome overall hitter. It's a very slow team. I think it was Parker that was pointing this out to me before the stream, how they're right near the bottom of the league in stolen bases. That is, of course, a huge flaw the Marlins have had this entire year. And this is a team that's not really going to exploit that because they just don't run very much at all under any circumstances. And it's a lineup that drops off a lot towards the very end. I mentioned Adames, and Patrick Bailey is a weird one because it looks like he was emerging maybe in just early last year as one of the better all-around catchers in baseball. He's still awesome defensively, but it's hard to put into words how bad he is offensively. It's just, yeah, it's really a mystery for a guy that was a former first-round draft pick and did look really well-rounded offensively at an earlier point in his career, that he has stalled in that regard so far. So it's a team that has good talent overall, but I think the Marlins might be catching him at the right time. Famous last words, because I kind of said the same thing about the Padres. This is a team that I thought just looked great early on in the year, and maybe they get back to being one. But at this moment, as you mentioned, this offense, a lot of guys that are collectively underperforming a little bit at the same time.
Parker, you even talked to Eli. You mentioned before talking about this Giants team. Is there anything else maybe that needs to be mentioned about this team? Maybe even specific players. You have like Mike Yastrzemski, who's been a Giant for a hot minute. Heliot Ramos, who's having a solid season. Matt Chapman, big contract player. Just it seems like just middling so far with the Giants.
Yeah, looking at the stats, they are third. They're third worst in the league. The only teams that are have less stolen bases than them are the Angels and the Tigers. And before go any further, quick shout out to the U for winning against Alabama 5-3. Let's go. Hopefully we continue on and actually do something well. But yeah, I mean they've just been a really poor hitting team for the most part. I don't want to completely shit on them because, I mean, we're still middle of the pack. We're in terms of OPS 706. They're 684. They're about 20 points lower than us, which is saying a lot because we're usually one of the worst hitting teams in the league. It seems like it every year, but I mean, it's only one guy on the team that's full time that has over an 800 OPS in terms of Heliot Ramos. But you're always going to have the Matt Chapman there is always going to be scary. I mean, even if he's not hitting, he's always going to be a great defender at third base. I mean, so going to be good luck there going down the line. That guy's a freaking gopher trying to get those balls. And, it should be only a matter of time before Willy Adames truly starts to break out. And the Giants hasn't had a great year so far, but I'm sure he'll turn it around. And Patrick Bailey's just been, like Eli said, just been an awful player just to start the year offensively. He has a 41 OPS plus when looking at Baseball Reference. That's piss poor to say the least. And I think the Giants are still a great team. I mean, yeah, like they're carried by their pitching, but they're definitely gonna have to do something with this offense, maybe look at some moves on the trade deadline or something like that, maybe to try and help out. But yeah, this team is not that great offensively.
We can finish off really quickly on the pitching side of this series before we head into prediction time. Carver, I want to go to you, talk about your guy. Always have to mention the ever so young 27-year-old Edward Cabrera. And he's going to have a tough matchup there going up against Robbie Ray, who's having a very good year, Cy Young Award winner. But do you think Edward Cabrera has what it takes to have that performance again against a more than average team overall in the Giants?
Does he have it is the question. Yes, he has it. Will we see it? I'm not confident. We've seen this so many times before from Cabrera where he comes out and has a good start, and last start was good. Yes, you guys are like Danny was right. He had a good start. I just refuse to buy into it until he starts to string those kinds of outings together. Is this the start of it at the young age of 27? I don't think so. I hate to say it. It's no knock on Edward. It's just this is who this guy has been historically, and I can't get past the fact that the guy is 27 and we're just now starting to see the best command and control. I hope that that's true, but I don't think that it will be. So I again, maybe he's just a late bloomer. Maybe like he just needed all that time and many years, many different organizations that tried to get this guy right and they couldn't do it. But maybe now is the time. But I can't buy into that until I see it in front of me. So yes, he has the stuff. Yes, he has the capability. But I am my confidence from 2 starts ago to now is unchanged.
It'll be very interesting to see how that happens, how Edward maybe if he can do it with the control, if his command is well enough, and if maybe he can, again, limit the walks, which he has been doing really as of late this past month. I want to hear from Nate and talking about, these pitchers, going up against Robbie, Hayden Burnside, but it seems like Ryan Weathers has really put it all together so far, very young in his season, in his performance. But how do you think he'll fare off against the Giants, and maybe what he needs to do to get to that next level? Because that's a guy that can potentially be an all-star for the Marlins if he continues on this path to the all-star game.
I just believe he has to stay consistent. The Giants are not a good hitting team, period, but especially against lefties, they're hitting sub 220. They're hitting right around 219 against lefties this season. So I think this is a great opportunity for Ryan, really go in and dominate against a low-level lineup. So far this season, he's faced the Cubs twice and the Padres. So for him really to settle in at home, I believe it's his second start at home this season. So just get in there on a Sunday afternoon, really just settle in. All his pitches have been working really well, especially his off speed. And his, of course, you're throwing upper 90s with a fastball. The slider really just plays in really well. So I'm excited for him. I think it's also going to be a huge test for Edward. Like Carver said, I've been out on Edward. I've officially exited the Edward Cabrera fan club after spring training, but he's kind of roping me back in. I want to see how he's going to do against this Giants lineup, which I just said not too good. Even against righties, not too good. So if he can really just command and backpack off that 10 strikeout out, and I'm not going to get too excited, but it is something to monitor. As we said with our old friend JJ Bleday, there might be a corner that is going to be turned. I don't want to say it yet, but it's worth looking at.
I think with that, it's a perfect time to head into predictions. Eli, let's get that music going, and we can see the board and how we can go for prediction time.
This is prediction time.
I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I'm really good at this.
So yeah, we are joined by, myself and LMF. We're in the same territory. We've been overly optimistic about the Marlins this season, barely making the cutoff. Parker's been making picks all year under the name Baby Seal. He is tied for fourth in the overall standings so far this year, a little bit ahead of Daniel. And where's Nate at this point? I didn't realize Nate was almost as far down as I am. Yikes. Eesh.
We can skip it. It's all right. It's not.
Where's Carver? Where are you, Carver?
And Carver is even slightly below the cutoff at this moment. That's because he's, irregular with sending in picks. He's just here to have fun on his own convenience.
For the vibe.
Yeah, so let's very quick from the field, Kevin Burrell and Isaac Azut give their picks.
Marlins and Giants, 3-game set. I'm going to go with the Marlins taking 2 out of 3, and Augustin Ramirez is my series MVP.
Alrighty. I think the Marlins are also going to have a good chance of taking the series. They win 2 out of 3, and Ryan Weathers will start his great start to the season on Sunday. Back to you, Eli.
All right. So, yeah, thanks to all our stream guests, our staffers, and our valued super subs for making predictions with us all season long. You can make your picks on fishonfirst.com or in our Discord channel if you are a super sub yourself. fishonfirst.com/subscriptions to do that and to support what we do.
All right.
Let me get that music. If I can find it.
Going, head to prediction time. I know Chase has the biggest smile. He is ready for this. Chase, and you're not going to go first. We're going to save you for last. And going first for us, one of our guests, Mr. Parker Hayes.
All right. I hate to go against the Marlins, but that's unfortunately what I'm going to do here. Giants going to win this series 2-1. Matt Chapman is going to be your MVP of this series.
All right. Let's go to Nate.
I had the Marlins beating the Padres last series, and I believe they should have. It was very close. A couple blowouts didn't go the Marlins' way, or a couple of blown leads, but I think they'll get it done this time. The Marlins will take 2 out of 3 against San Francisco, and I just mentioned it. Giants hitting 219 this year against lefties. Perfect opportunity for Ryan Weathers on Sunday to get it done. That's your series MVP.
Carver.
Yeah, I kind of just aligning with what Nate said about how just porous this offense has been. Not that that's their ceiling, but I don't think they get it going against the Marlins in this series on the road. I'm going to give it to the Marlins to take 2 out of 3, and I'll say Dane Myers. Dane Myers coming back and gets a couple hits, gets a couple important hits, and gets the MVP.
All right, I'll go. Kevin's going to love this pick for me. Very rare on some occasions, but I'm going to go ahead and have the Marlins winning this series. The Giants are not as great as they are as pitching as they are offensively. The Marlins do not have to see Logan Webb, which is a plus. I think the Marlins take 2 out of 3, and my MVP is going to be Mr. Connor Norby. I think Connor Norby is going to be MVP. Let's go, Eli.
This is a tough spot because even if I think the Marlins are going to win, I'm not going to pick up as much ground as I would have normally do because of you guys are being optimistic. I'm going to trust the process and think that the Marlins will win 2 out of 3 against the Giants, hitting them at the right time. The Marlins are undefeated this season when they have Jack Winkler and Heriberto Hernandez on the roster. So I think that they're not going to remain undefeated overall. In terms of series wins, they're going to win 2 out of 3 to take the series against the Giants. MVP, Javier Sanoja. I really like the way that his plate appearances looked in that previous series in San Diego.
All right, let's get louder with LMF Chase. Take it away.
The Giants are coming into Miami. They are super angry. They just were swept in Detroit. That doesn't matter. We have Cabrera on the mound. We have Cantrell on the mound. We have Ryan Weathers is changing on the mound here in Miami, and we have a roof. We don't shut down the games for rain, and we don't need to change our start times. No, we do not. Dane Myers is back, and he is your MVP. Augustin is going to hit some monster dongs, and the Marlins are going to take this series 2-1. And get ready for the almighty Rockies. Let's get louder and let's frickin' go.
That was as perfect as I thought it was going to be. My plan came all together, and that was just beautiful, Chase. You made the guest appearance worthwhile in that. That was awesome. You can go ahead and check Kevin out on Twitter for his coverage of the game. That's going to do it for today on FOF Live, presented by About the Fans. Use code FOF10 on checkout, 10% off for Daniel, Eli, Nate, Alex Carver, Kevin joining us, Parker Heiser, LMF, Chase, going crazy. Let's get louder, let's get crazy, and of course, let's go fish.
Fish on First has partnered with About the Fans to launch a merchandise collection. Rep the FOF logo in more Marlins-inspired apparel. Find it all at aboutthefans.com. Enter coupon code FOF10 at checkout to get 10% off your order. FOF10 for a 10% discount.